sending me pictures of what he purchased, and Mom was so excited about her coffee pot. She texted me this morning. Now, my mom's 84. She texts fluidly. She texted me. She said, "I had coffee in my coffee pot at 4:30 this morning, and I loved it." So it's those little things, right? And when you said, "You'll hear more about my family tonight," but that's where Joey is. He would be here if there was. He would rather be here, I'm sure. So he sends his love. So I want to just go ahead and explain where he is. Well, I am here today looking for 10 national sales directors. That's why I'm here. And to celebrate and honor the leadership of Kristen and the influence that she's had. And I'm going to divide my segment today into 3 parts, and I want to share with you what those 3 parts would be first, and then we'll dive right in. How does that sound? How does that sound? How does that sound? The first segment is going to be my last conversation with Mary Kay privately in her office at the World Headquarters building. There was a time that when the company thought, or Mary Kay thought, you were going to be in line to become a national sales director, you were invited in for a private meeting with our founder. And I shared some pictures up here, just some things from Mary Kay that I thought would be meaningful. Kristen said, bring stories, bring history, bring the woman. And there was a time that she invited you in. And I want to talk to you about that story. And I want to talk to you about that conversation and that couple hours that I had with her in her office. So that will be one part of the day. Is that good? The second segment will be on how to think right. And I don't mean right as a moral judgment, but accurately. How to think about the business according to Mary Kay Ash. According to Mary Kay, the founder. I had 16 years of her voice, so I want to talk about how would she think about the business in 2017 and in 2018 and going forward. So I want to talk about thinking right about the business and understanding numbers. And that's the segment. And then my last segment is on more about the woman, her faith, and how that impacted her success. And then the faith walk and how that ties into All In with 8 that's just been launched, and how All In with 8 can propel and move your stories forward in a massive momentum way. So does that sound okay? Does that sound good? Does that sound good? Kristen grew up and married, she said, in her 20s. And I was thinking back, I signed my agreement and got a consultant number in my 20s. And then last year, 48% of the new independent beauty consultants were under the age, almost 50% were under the age of 34. We're relevant for all ages, but how wonderful to be able to grow up in this company where there's not only a process, but there's a culture. And that you're building a great business, but you're also building a life. And may we never underestimate the value of being a part of something that helps us to build our best life, our absolute best life. Kristen, I don't know when I want to go in and share stories. I think I want to start now with the story. And before I do that, I want to do a couple more stories. Those are the things I want to share that I've prepared and I feel like has been anointed or just in my quiet time to bring to you. But really what I'm here for in addition to that is to get to know you. If I'm looking for nationals, I want to get to know who you are. And that's my passion. And I want to get to know you like I've gotten to know 3, 4, or 5 of you. What a tribute to be here and see Tess representing the #1 unit this month, and the #1 unit. And I can remember, may I go down memory lane? Can I say some stories? I do this? I can remember when Kristen called me. Now, Kristen didn't call me often, so we had a conversation every day. But when she called or texted me to tell me about someone, I knew it was different. And I got this call from Kristen, and she said, Glinda, I've met someone that's just special. Her light's a little brighter. She's set apart. I don't know how to describe it other than she's just special. And her name's Tess. And so I went in and I thought, well, if Kristen calls me, because I get like one call a year like this. It's not like it happens every week. One call a year I get like this. And I go, well, I've got to get to know who this person is that Kristen took the time to call me. She said, I can't really describe it. Is there energy? Is there excitement? Is there love? Is there passion? Is there family? Is how she loves her. I'm going, my word, I haven't even heard Kristen talk like that before. And so I remember in our Lenore house, and I call it the piano room, there's nothing but my piano, a small desk, and a leather recliner. And I was sitting in the leather recliner, it's burgundy, about the color of Randy's shirt. And I called Tess. And I had my first, and I just said, Tess, I just want to know who you are and get to meet this person that Kristen is so excited about. And then I learned of her heart and her love for her family, her work ethic, and her dedication to want to make a difference for women and to give them something that just may not exist. And how you value all women. You see greatness, Tess, in everybody, no matter if they're the president or washing the dishes. You make them all feel wonderfully the same like Mary Cash did. See, I want to get to know each of you like I got to know Tess. Then I got to meet Sandy. Well, there's no certain order, but I got to meet Sandy. And Sandy was where is Sandy? Sandy was a DIQ. I can't remember if it was Atlanta. I think it was Atlanta. Or Houston. Atlanta or Houston. And they invited the DIQs to come. And like Kristen is putting speakers on the program, I invited a DIQ to speak. And I actually invited two. And Sandy was one of them. When I heard her speak, I knew there was excellence in her core. And if I can remember a quote that she said in that speech today, it resonated with me. And very few people speak that I can quote years later, but she talked about the importance of where to reach out to and whose voice to listen to. And were you going to reach down in desperation or out to your equal or reach up above? And in a world with increased noise and increased contact and increased communication and even fake news and fake information and fake everything, never more has that wisdom been more valuable than to now, is to know who you're listening to, know why you're listening to them, check it, and be able to reach up and have someone above you that can mentor and coach you. Sandy, that was profound. And I want to know more about people like I know about you. I invited her to be my speaker at my fall advance because I believe so strongly in her work ethic and her love for people, her spirituality, her willingness to keep growing, but more importantly, her tenacity, her grit to get back up and go again. And that's the characters. What does it take to stop somebody? We can all keep going when it's great, but you get up and go when it's not, and I admire that. So I want to know others like I know Sandy. What did I do in Raleigh? I did a booth event. I did an international festival. I worked a booth event with Julianne, and I didn't get to know Julianne that much that day, but what I observed is Julianne's like a dog on a bone. And when she wants something, she goes after it. And I just step back sometimes and say, Julianne, take the clipboard and go. And I like somebody that will take the lead and initiate and go get the job done. Don't we need people that will take the lead and get a job done? Yes. And then I was at I have to share a Red Jacket something. And it's the first time I have a memory of meeting Angie. And Angie was a red jacket. It was in 2011. She was very cute in that red jacket. And what I remember from that event was that our conversations riveted around whether or not Angie was going to marry Jonathan. She was not completely all in yet, that was what was going to take place. But then what I admired and learned from Angie at that event, Angie executes and uses the ability of silence in her communication better than anybody I know. In a world that can't stop talking, you put heavenly pauses or strategic pauses, and you allow people to feel in their heart what they're getting ready to think before they speak it out of their mouth. And that's a gift, Angie. And you use the strategic pause as well as anybody I know. Bridget. Remember the first time I ever saw Bridget was in Dallas. I mean, I may have seen you before, but it's the first time I remember seeing you. I think it was in Dallas. It was a Future National Workshop. It was a room similar to this, only smaller. Tables were closer together. My podium was here. Bridget sat where Bobby Joe's sitting, except one seat over. I remember exactly the chair that you were in and which way you were facing. And Kristen said to me, once again, she's a gentle giant, and the strength that's inside of her and the grit that she's developed. But Glinda, she has that special ability to live in her imagination and live in her dreams above a level of just facts. And she's going to be an amazing national one day. That's what I remember. And I thought, wow, again, if Kristen says that there's a center, she lives in her imagination. She lives in belief. She lives in a higher level of realm of even feeling than most people do. And it's such a joy to watch you live life this way and see the impact it's having on others. It's more difficult to do than I think people realize, because we get caught up in circumstances. You take yourself to another place. You live in your imagination and in your dreams. And women grow up, and sometimes we think our dreams, we kind of forget we have them, and you're showing women to have them. So thank you. I want to get to know all of you like I know Shanna Jones. I was hosting a director meeting in my home, and the DIQs were invited afterwards, and the only DIQ that attended was Shanna. And I had a couple of hours of just time with Shanna. Now, that wasn't the first time I ever met Shanna. First time I ever met Shanna was the month of April, after career conference in March at the State Civic Center in Statesville. There was a center row. The room was set up in theater style. You sat on the left side, center aisle, about 25 seats back near the door, because you were breastfeeding. You could pretty much say that about any time in Shannon. That And that day, I taught about community booking. And that's all I did was community booking. Because I thought, why? Have you ever planned an event and go, why did I plan this event? Have you ever gotten and thought, what? We just went to career conference, we're all pumped up, but why did I put this on the calendar? but I'm a woman of my word, so I have to do it. I'm going to do it. But well, there's nothing else to teach them. There's nothing else to share. There's nothing else to do. We just need to get bookings. Because my next banner that I'm going to make for my national area is going to say, with God and with bookings, anything's possible. But it says both. With God and with bookings, anything is possible. All things are possible. So we spent like 4 hours digesting, breaking down booking. That's the whole idea, was booking. We did the psychology of booking. We wrote down the 4 steps of booking. We wrote down lists. We role played. We real played. We broke out into groups. We went and called. We had cowbells to ring. We tallied we looked for 4 to 5 hours. And we talked about the number of bookings. It was 25, would be a Cadillac, 40 would be a top director strip, 64 would be a million. We talked about all the purposes around the numbers. But Shanna came home, and one of the things she did the next year, she did one thing, one critical inch. She did community booking every month. And it takes 40 that hold to do a top director trip. And she focused on that one critical inch and led her unit to the circle of excellence their first 12 months as a unit. Now, I believe in my heart she really didn't know what she's doing yet. Y'all agree with that? Mm-hmm. She didn't know what she's doing. When you're a young director, new director, you're not a good director. You're not even an okay director. You're a new director. But even as a new director, if you focus on the right thing, you can get amazing results while you're growing and developing as a person. But I think she got scared. Like, oh, I really know what I'm doing. She knew how to get the bookings, and that's the most important thing. And I've watched her, but more than anything, Shanna, as I cherished that conversation at my house that day with the DIQ, as a DIQ, you told me about who you were as a person, and you told me about your faith, and you told me about your family, and you told me about your dreams that you were going to have 6 children, you would bring 6 to earth, and you told me all those things about you as a person. But this is what I noticed. Of all the people I've ever been around, and I've been around a lot, there's maybe one other person that's a man, but you have the most retentive memory of anyone I've ever met. And as long as you remember the right thing, you're going to go places. So your heart, your brain, your mind. And I look around. I hope I haven't left anybody out, but I want to know you like this. I want to know what your gifts are. And we do that by spending time. So I'm very, very, very grateful, excited. What are you, just quickly, top 3, how are you feeling right now in this moment? Someone tell me how you're feeling.
I'm excited. I'm very excited to be here.
Yes. Tell me one more time your Sierra. Sierra. Okay, Sierra. All right. Sierra, I like that. You wanted to make sure that I knew who you were. So you immediately, I'm glad to be here. I'm excited. What are you feeling excitement about right now, Sierra?
Just meeting all of you and having this wonderful opportunity.
Okay.
I feel like I'm growing as a person, and to be around such strong women, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else right now.
Good. Thank you, Sierra. Thank you. Someone else? Ashley.
It's where I'm supposed to be.
You feel like it's where you're supposed to be. You feel out of place being anywhere else right now. Okay? All right.
Absolutely love this group of women, and it's a privilege for me because I moved out of the area, and I'm just so excited to not be in DIQ as a destination, but to complete directorship, to go to the next step after that. So, yes.
Smart. Yes. One more. Yes.
I feel motivated. Seeing all these amazing women who I know started in the same spot that I am, it's just awesome.
Good. Well, I've saved my most for last. And that's why I want to talk to you a little bit about how I feel about your leader. And I'm sure we can tell stories and stories and stories. I'm going to save part of this to the end, though, to the end of the day. I'm going to save most of it, Kristen, till the end of the day.
I'm totally fine with that.
Because that's going to be my wrap-up. My wrap-up today is going to be more about Kristen. But I want you to know how much I respect her heart, her mind, and her courage. I watched her go from a consultant that wasn't even on my radar. I wonder if you've got someone in your growing organization that's not even on the radar. Because Kristen wasn't on mine. Then she got on my radar. Then I got to know her, and I watched her build the business, and I watched her work it purely, Mary Kay way. I watched her set goals. I watched her become a sales director in order to have them. I watched her, but more than anything, I watched her get uncomfortable and do things she didn't really want to do, but she convinced herself that she did because of her great love for her family. That's what I watched. I watched her work so she wouldn't have to move to where Randy could get a job. I watched her work and build so that she could be near her family and she knew a certain amount of income. I watched her she knew that the first step was to get to director. I watched her get to director. I watched her take her family to Disney. I watched her not set a new goal quick enough. Mary Kay taught us that before we reached a goal to set another one. But we're growing as leaders. I don't do everything right with my leaders all the time. Do you? No. You're going to get a new version. I think with every new recruit, with every new DIQ, you get a chance to redo. You get a chance to do it over with your new best version of you. So she went from this new director to getting the termination letter from Mary Kay, or that if you don't make production, that the minimum. Then I watched her go from there to growing her thinking to what does a Cadillac really mean. I remember her taking her star consultants to the lights at Tanglewood, and she asked them what it would mean to be a Cadillac. I watched her grow from a Cadillac unit, a Cadillac leader, all the way to the #1 leader. The leader of the #1 unit in the entire world. Now, she talks about being nervous and coming to the Big Girl Club. I want to tell you that you are in the presence of a mind that if this were our last day on earth, it would be said, she did entrepreneurship. She did Mary Kay. She was an example of Mary Kay done well. There's a lot of business women that don't do it well. She's an example of Mary Kay done well. And you have her. You have her. Not just a unit, but the #1 unit 3 times in the U.S., 1 time in the world. #1 in the world. That's courage, that's heart. But this is how much I respect her. This is my inner circle notebook. And I'm still very much a paper woman. And I have inner circle, and it's inner circle so that, and that's my so that is what I feel out in my mind, in my heart. But there's very few people in my notebook. I have Dr. Nathan Baxter, I have Nan Stroud, I have just less than 4 mentors. And I went through and I started just tabbing. Do you see those pieces of paper? Do you see those pieces of paper, Kristen? All those pieces of paper are things that you create.
Not on your tabs.
You are my tabs. I'm looking here. I'm thinking these are the things. See, I believe. Let's just refresh a moment. With enough humility, we can learn from anyone. Can we take a deep breath? With enough humility, the consultant can learn from the national can learn from the consultant. the director can learn from someone. With enough humility, we can learn from each other, and we can learn from different backgrounds, different beliefs, different upbringings. With enough humility, we can learn from each other. Would you agree?
Yes, sir.
We can. And this is, I'm gonna put the mic down for just a moment.
This is her fast track sheet. I always have it with me. I just put these tabs. This is her emotional cycle with my notes written on it. This is her 1 month normal. And I've even kept, and there's more, but this is her welcome and review agenda. This is Kristen's event that she held at Myrtle Beach in 2011 when I met Angie, because I wanted the format. It was one of the best, most amazingly executed event I had ever been a part of, and I've kept it as an outline for 6
Oh my gosh!
years.
I may need to take a picture of it. Glenda, thank you.
Well, it's just real, kiddo. God blessed me with a brilliant young child. So I'm forever grateful. You are all in my tabs.
She's a good mama. So look at this. And I don't know if I could, like, I needed a special person too. Y'all know that, right? I needed a special person that I could, I'm a little bit like this sometimes. I have to be like, okay, I can trust her. She's reliable. She's logical. I needed that. So God knew that I could make it, Mary Kay. Or it was gonna probably not turn out for me. So thank you for being you with tabs. You are my tabs.
I just want you to know that you are the most tabs of anybody in my book. The most tabs are, okay. I feel like I need to tell just a little bit of my story, just a tiny bit, even though I want to go into it deeply tonight. I want to talk more about my family tonight, my parents, and how they broke a generational cycle, and how being reared in a household with 2 leaders impacted me greatly. But if you didn't have that, you've got to be that for the next generation. And so I was reared in a home with 2 leaders, and I went to college. I was going to be pre-med. I went into 3 different situations. As a child, I played doctor. How many of you played school? I played school. But I would also grow rocks into powder, put them into Anacin, little 10 Anacin tablets. Some of you know what an Anacin tablet is. Some of you don't. Google. It's an aspirin, and I would make powder to my dolls and stuffed animals to make them well. And so I loved biology. Even before that, my mother was an outdoor person. My very first job is I raised earthworms. I dug earthworms and made my own bed of earthworms, and I sold them to the fly fishermen, or the trout fishermen, the trout fishermen in the Stone Mountain State Park area for a penny a piece. And so I guess I had an entrepreneurial spirit in me. I needed to grow in my ethics a little bit at that time of my life, because the fishing would come back to my parents, because it was always food at my parents. And then I would take their bait boxes and dump their earthworms back into my bed, and they sell them to me. So, but so that was just smart business. I resold the same earthworms. If they ate dessert, I guess I resold. I now I charged them. I don't know. They were eating my parents' food, so I thought that I would charge them for the earthworms. And so I grew up in a household where work was honored. Everybody worked, and my parents were poultry farmers. So later on, I graded eggs. Someone would gather the eggs, and I would grade the eggs for $5 a week. And I can remember singing hymns while grandma and I would grade the eggs. And I remember her singing one time that old hymn, "We'll work till Jesus comes." And I remember stopping and going, "Are we really going to? Are we really going to do this?" Work was of a high honor and a high value. And so schoolwork was high honor. Everybody did well. You put your best signature, you put your best foot forward. And I graduated first in the class. I went to college. I graduated summa cum laude. And I started out in biology. And then in vertebrate morphogenesis, Dr. McCready at UNCG, he came to me and he said, "I've never done this before, but I want you to consider." He used the word recruit, really. I didn't know what that really meant. He said, "We want you to go to the medical program." He said, "You have a gift. You have a knack. You have something that we don't always see that just kind of comes with you with this vertebrate morphogenesis and how the body works." And I didn't take it that seriously. I thought, well, okay, that's nice, but I didn't want to go to school all that long. So I went to a 5-year degree, then I dropped down to a 4-year degree, and ended up teaching biology and anatomy because I love it. I love it. And notice I said I love it. It's not past tense. I still love it. I love biology. I love anatomy. I love the body. I love the human body. I think it's amazing. God said He created it, and it was very good. And I loved everything about it. When I got into the classroom, my teaching salaries were frozen, and for 5 years, I never got a pay raise. I never got it. You don't get into teaching to make money. You get into teaching because you want to make a difference. But I was still struggling. So it was pain that drove me to something like Mary Kay. And God can use a lot of motivators, and pain's one of them. Pain is a great motivator. Pain, possibilities, purpose, pleasure. Pain drove me to Mary Kay and I have to say it was of God, because I would have never chosen something like Mary Kay for myself. Because at the skincare class, unless someone rose up and talked about what was beneath the product, I would have thought that the company was about the product, not about the vehicles change lives. So pain drove me there, and I became a working consultant. I reluctantly went into DIQ. I didn't really want to grow a team. Reluctantly went into DIQ. But my 4th and final month of DIQ, which was October, and I want to share this month, my 4th and final month of DIQ, I gave myself permission to go all in. And I know that many of you talk the game, you talk the talk, you say the right thing, but you're still not all in. And it was that 4th month that I gave myself a decision, and I went all in. And that month, I have it somewhere. I think I have it. I have my DIQ. I want you to see this because it's very important to me. I'll find it. I have my DIQ report. And that month, in 1986, some of you, so it's been a while, 1986. Yeah, 1986. Teaching school full time. I've given up coaching. We recruited 13 people in October, and we did $21,000 in promotion in that month. So we were in the big girls club as a DIQ, but it was just because I had decided. Now the month before I'd done $3,000 promotion. So write that down too. The month before I'd done $3,000, then that month we did $21,000 because I went all in. And then I just want to say this as I get ready to wrap up. That was the most significant promotion I ever gave myself till I went national. And I think when you move from consultant to director, you go national. But this was the difference when I went to director. Mary Kay was alive. She was speaking to us. She was talking to us. And I knew that I was going to figure this job out. Are you going to figure this job out? I wasn't good. I didn't know how to dress. I didn't know how to present yet. But I made a decision, and I call it an entrepreneurial mindset. And an entrepreneurial mindset is, I will figure this out. There was never, excuse me, I better get water. There was never an option of going back. I didn't recertify my teaching certificate. I took out my retirement. I closed every possible door to the past. And if I could not contribute, thank you, the income, I remember saying to my husband, I will waitress. I will put the money in there, but I closed off all options and set onto a mode, I will figure this out. And I think now might be an appropriate time. So it just became a journey of figuring it out and doing my very best to do it the way Mary Kay would want me to do it. My father owned his own business, and I knew that he wanted his bricklayers to do the work the way he wanted it done. And so when I would go to Dallas and you see these pictures of Mary Kay the woman, it wasn't that I was listening to so much of, I was wanting to know her DNA. I was wanting to know what was she thinking, how did she want us to do it, because I wanted to do it her way. Do you want to do this business her way? Or in our self-centered era of 2017, this is where I see so many people fall off the cliff. You're trying to do her business your way. Can we reframe it? She never meant that. Could you do Mary Kay's business her way with your unique DNA and giftings instead of trying to figure out your own way? If I did anything well, it was that. To figure out how to do her way with my giftings. How to do her process. We're a company with a culture and a process. How can I duplicate the culture? How can I duplicate her process with my giftings? And first year, so I really try to do two things. How does she think and understand the numbers? How does she think and understand the numbers? Our first school year as a unit, I want to give you some stats, kind of see the journey. My first school year as a unit, we did the 400,000 circle. So for 12 months out, we did 400,000. Got our unit to over 100 unit members. Second year, we did 350. Third year, we did 500,000. Fourth year, which was 91, we did 300,000. We dropped down 200,000. How many of y'all have gone backwards before? Next year, we did 400,000. The next year, we did 600,000. The next year, we did 650,000. Trip year. The next year, we did 650,000. The next year, we did 450,000. Slid back 200,000. I remember that year thinking, will I ever be a national? Because I slipped back 200,000 in production, and I thought, I've got to get back to there and then go on from there, and I lost some hope. Hope deferred makes the heart sick. Would you agree? Yes. I slipped back to 450, then I climbed back up to 500,000. Then we did 750,000. Then we did 550,000. Then we went national. So that's a little bit of the story. And then after a national for 2 years, Kristen recruited. So that was built before Kristen was recruited. So my story would be, I just was a woman who said, I'm going to figure this out. And started working to see if I could figure out the business and could show other people how. And that's what I've been doing. And I'm trying to figure out how to think right. So let's take for just a pause, just a second. feelings, or let's check in with each other. What are you feeling right now? 3 people. Say
Process. Enjoy the process.
enjoy the process. That's my necklace. Enjoy the process. Enjoy the journey. Okay?
All I can think of is chocolate. I'm bringing up chocolate cherry water right now. And you just have to keep on focusing on the process, enjoying the process as you go along, learning what you learn.
How has anything I've said so far been meaningful? Anyone? Yes.
Everything that you're saying through each year, you had ups and downs. Everything you went through, we're going through it.
Okay. All right. Someone else, yeah?
Stop trying to do her business your way. You got to. And I think that probably, anytime I felt out of place or uncomfortable or like something's not right, if I look back on it, hindsight's 20. I look back on it, it's her business, not me. And that's very good.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to talk more about what exactly her way is. I think you all know it, but thank you, Shannon. Thank you. Someone else. Anything I've said has been meaningful.
I'm right there where you were going to figure this out.
Say it one more
I'm
time.
right there where you were just saying, I'm going to figure this out.
Yes. That will serve you well. I will figure this out. It was never an option to quit. That was never an option. It's figure it out. I got to figure this out. I got to figure this out. An entrepreneur wants the freedom that comes with all the freedom of owning your own business, but we don't want the discipline that comes with it to figure it out to go forward. And that's so served you well. One more person.
Grace.
Excuse me?
There's so much grace.
Grace.
There's so much grace. I think and it's a multitude of different categories you can put in. So the grace of how she wanted us to run the business, but she gave us the opportunity to talk about the business.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of times we don't apply that to our people. So, and then you have to have grace and discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those things are what you're talking about. But they all go back to the same thing, the grace of having her give us. And then that's the part of it. And then discipline and then all of it.
Thank you.
I thought
Humility.
work hard, working hard is a high honor. It's an honor.
Mhm.
But to work is humility as a servant. And that you're planting seeds. And the seeds you sow, you reap a harvest later. All these, just looking at the years that you were humble, even though you dropped, you were still humble. And you came back. And 2 years after you became passionate, the harvest that you got, that we're all here.
Yeah.
Because I think I really came from her first party,
She did.
but it took 15 years for the seed to cultivate. Oh, I came from one of her first 5 parties, her first party. It took 15 years for me to come out of her first party. I wasn't born. No, I don't know. I was a baby. It doesn't matter. It's bad. You gotta be patient.
We're going to come back and thank you. Thank you. I want you to somehow get from me before I leave that I hope your leadership, because this was Mary Kay's leadership. I don't think I have any Glinda leadership. It's all Mary Kay leadership. Is that you learn to live from the inside out. That you learn to lead from the inside out. That you learn to lead from your calling, from your purpose, from your obedience, from your self-discipline, rather than from the outside in, which means you're responding to what's going on around you. You're responding to the person who just said no, or the person who just sent her product back, or the person who just quit, or the person who just went somewhere else. You're responding to circumstances versus being driven and motivated by your purpose and your calling. What if would Mary Kay have ever got the business started if she had lived from the outside in? Ever. She wouldn't have. I mean, the first people said, you can't borrow money, you're a woman. In the 60s. I mean, she would have never gotten going. So I always check myself. Am I responding right now from the outside in, or am I responding from my purpose, from why I'm here, from what I'm here to do? And how do you get anchored in that? How do you clean up your energy? How do you keep going when things aren't coming at you so well? Okay. Thank you. I want to go now to my last conversation with Mary Kay. It's very clear for me to see God's hand in this business at so many times. And my last conversation with Mary Kay, for 2 hours, she talked only about women's health to me. I wonder why she talked about women's health to me. I'm sure she didn't talk about women's health to all the other people in her office, but she was so concerned about women's health. She went off. Mary Kay was very passionate, and I want to tell you as many Mary Kay stories. She said, Glinda, she didn't know I had a biology background. She didn't know anything about my background that I'm aware of. She just was all up in arms over that we didn't have any vitamins for women to take that had the right amount of anything in them. She said there would be all these, she had a bottle, she pulled a bottle out of her desk. She said, they've got all these things in them, but they don't have enough of any of it in them to really help a woman. And then she said, and all of our food, she said, our broccoli and our things that we're supposed to eat is green. And she said, you know, I really don't like those things. I like jelly beans. And she said, but the food that we're supposed to be nutritionally feeding our bodies, they're depleted. And now women are getting cancer. And she said, we've got to do better than we're currently doing. And I'm just sitting there going, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And she said, I've got a company, and we're going to figure out a vitamin just for women. And she said, we're going to make a vitamin, and we're going to call it a nutritional supplement. Mary Kay was so ahead of her time. What is savvy and current today on clean living and benefits? And she had it back then. And she said, and we're not going to sell this vitamin. I just want to invest the money and have it made for just my sales force. She said, I love my women so much that I want them to have something to keep their body going. And she said, and now will you be on my test panel? She said, we don't test on animals, but would you let us test on you? I'm sitting in Mary Kay's office. Now, what am I going to say? Yes. Yes, ma'am. What do you want me to take? What do you want me to drink? How often do you want me to do it? And she said, well, the doctors will tell you all that, but that later became, I took so many in the morning, and then I had to document how I felt, and then I had to take them at night, and I had to document how I felt, and if I slept, and if it changed. And I did this for a couple of months of different, and I turned it back in, and we'd have it leadership, we'd have classes to go to if we were taking vitamins. We would go off in that room, and the doctors would come in and talk to us. And she cared so deeply. And she took out her top was her right drawer. I was over this side. She pulled out a list of names, and she said, now, would you like to know what's on this piece of paper? And I said, yes, ma'am. And she said, these are all of my daughters that I've lost to cancer. And she had every name listed. And she said, we can do better. We can do more. And she said, I'm thinking about starting a foundation. Now, this was pre the Mary Kay Ash Foundation. She said, I'm going to start a foundation, and I'm going to put all the money I can, and I want to give it all to Dr. Kahn, because I think he is the one that's on the cutting edge, and I want to support him. She said, I think he's brilliant, and I think he's making the most progress. And she said, I'm going to start this foundation. We'll start something, and I'm going to put my money and then I'm going to ask the sales force if you'll match it. But she said, I'm going to put my money into figuring out what we can do for women's health. Did you have any idea how much she loved you? And she said, Glinda, the company, you're going to become a national. And this is what she said. She said, the company's going to take care of the product. They're going to take care of the tools that you need. And she said, you're going to make a lot of money. She looked in my eyes. She said, but I want you to know what's important to me. She said, what's important to me are my people. And she said, if you'll take care of my people, everything else will take care of itself. That's all she talked about. And so my mentor, Nan Stroud, would often say that if we had a sick director, we had a sick unit. And if we had a sick national, we had a sick area. And that doesn't mean you couldn't get sick and deal with things, but she would say, Mary Kay knew we had to take care of our bodies. And my father would often say, my dad, Glinda, if you don't take care of your body, you're not going to have anywhere to live. There's a lot of wisdom in that. If you don't take care of your body, you're not going to have anywhere to live. And I never saw my dad take a sick day. I never saw my dad take a sick day. He kept his body healthy to go to work because he had a crew, he had a team, he had people. And Nan taught me that you learn to build the business with the circumstances you've been given health-wise, but the bottom line was we need to stay healthy. Would you agree with that? And Mary Kay wanted women, and she was concerned about it. So there's 6 things that I'd like to share, 6 most important things of Mary Kay that I have done over the years that have been impacted by that last conversation with Mary Kay the woman. Would you find benefit in those 6 things? Yes. And it all came because of her, that last conversation. Over time, number 1 is now again, this is not perfection. I think if any of you have been around me, you know I'm not clean. I'm not 100% clean, but would you say that we can make progress in these areas? Yes? Yes, absolutely. I stopped, number 1, which is what she asked me to do, was to stop the bad foods. Stop some of the bad stuff that we put into our bodies. Stop the trash. She talked about our jelly beans. She said, what we're eating is not giving us the benefits we need. So could we embrace stopping some of the bad things? The second thing I've worked on is to increase the good. Stop some of the bad things. And I will say that human behavior, we do not take action based on what we know. We take action based on what we feel. And I knew that aspartame was hurting me for a long time. But I still drank it for decades. I hope that you'll put yourself in a position to feel something. I felt something from Mary Kay Ash. I felt deeply that she wanted us to take care of each other. And so stop the bad, increase the good. Number 3, always monitor your hormones. Monitor your hormones. Study them enough to know what they do. Know what you believe, why you believe it. Be your own health advocate. Your hormones mainly, one of the main things your hormones does is it affects your cognition. It affects your brain and all the parts that go with your brain, whether you're pregnant, whether you're trying to get pregnant, or whether you're perimenopausal, or whether you're postmenopausal. Hormones make your body, they're the chemicals that make your body work. It's not just sex hormones. Your hormones control your bone health, your bone strength. Your hormones impact your heart health, your heart. Your hormones impact your brain, your cognition. Your hormones impact your muscle. So if you take muscles, bone, heart, and brain, forget your sex drive. Let's just talk about those 4 things. Muscle, bone, heart, and brain. And if they impact those 4 things, might we consider getting them in balance? Or when you fall, you're going to break your bones, or you're going to have heart issues, or you're going to have cognition. I'm just going to talk about your brain today. And if your hormones are out of balance, you tend to have skewed perception. You have skewed perception. You have paranoia, and I mean paranoia like, I wonder if I said the right thing at that interview. I wonder what she's going to go and say. I wonder if I delivered what Kristen wanted. I wonder if this was good enough. A lot of that. Anybody ever thought those thoughts? You walk away from a skincare class. Oh, I wonder if she liked me. And you're not a people pleaser by nature. Y'all are giggling. You've experienced this, haven't you? Yeah. You walk away from something and you second guess it. Yeah. Did I say the right thing? Did I oversay the right thing? Did I say too much? Da, 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 da. Now there's a learning curve when you learn this, but when you're pretty good at what you're doing and you start having those thoughts, the hormones are out of balance. That's a level of paranoia, because you're skewed. You're not even, your brain is not taking the information in exactly accurately. You misread people when your hormones are out of balance. You misread people. We're in the people business. We're in the people business. And Mary Kay said that 95 to 99%. This was Mary Kay's thinking on this. She said, I'm going to say some things that Kristen gave me permission. She said I could say anything. Yeah, she did. But I will tell you when it's original Glinda. It won't be much. Most of this Mary Kay. She said that 80% of all directors were still followers. 80% of all directors, and she said, stop calling them leaders, Glinda. Stop calling them leaders. She said, they're not leaders, they're directors. They have to develop and earn the right to lead. 80% of all directors are still followers. And I'll go into a little bit deeper, but I want you to want to develop and grow your leadership. That doesn't happen in a year. It happens over a lifetime, I believe. But one of the things that Mary Kay said that separated, she said all directors want the skill. And then she said what separates the top 2%, the 2%, so of every 100 directors, what separates the greats from the directors will be 2 things. She said, will they develop leaders? Do they understand that their job is to pass their job on? I'm going to go ahead and share right now. There's 3 types of directors, and there are 3 types of directors. Now, there's not a good, better, best. There's not a bad. There's 3 types of directors. It's okay to live in any area. We need all 3, but let's differentiate between a director and a high leader. Can we do that? Yes. Okay. The first type of director is someone who focuses on product sales all the time. She becomes a director because of seeing so many customers day in, day out, week in, week out, that she finds 24, 30 people who just say, I want to be a part of what you're doing. But she doesn't focus on building the unit. She's on national court of sales every single year. National sales, national sales, national sales, national sales. And sometimes she's clean. And that's okay, but I watch Mary Kay. I watch Mary Kay crown the queens, and she'd say she would honor them. she would celebrate them, then she would do her very best to shift them. Now, next year, I bet you're going to have your unit recognized in the Circle of Excellence. She didn't always shift them, but I watched her try. Are you with me? Okay, the second type of director was someone who focused on building a really large unit. Her consultants were her customers. She got to, now there is a pathway, and she got to 24, she got to 50, she got to 150, she got to 200. There's nothing wrong with that. There's 250, she got to 300. What's wrong, and that's okay. You build this really large unit, and you've got a lot of consultants exchanging product for profit, and they're bringing some profit into their household, but there's nobody passing on the opportunity to leadership. So they're building a large unit, but no directors debut. No DIQs. And then she said the third type of leader, she does embrace sales because she knows that's our process. She does grow a unit. She gets her unit to 100 her first year, 125, and then at 125, but she's always looking for leaders. And she's passing on, she's always looking, who's the next leader, who's the next DIQ, who's the next DIQ. Only reason I did 400,000 my first year as a director is I debuted 4 directors. And I probably should have said that instead of 400,000. It was you become a director, you give your job away. But you can't give your job away if there's no one there to take your job. So you have to grow the unit size. But then, so she called the leaders, the women who passed it on. And then she said, Glinda, from that group, those that pass it on, from those that pass it on, that separates them to great influence. Now, Mary Kay said, not position, not promotion, not position, not inner circle, not elite executive, but what's the difference in the amount of influence someone has on another human being? She said the great separator that separates, she said now all the other directors focus on their technique and they focus on getting good. But she said what will separate that last edge is spend your time for the rest of your life growing your people skills, growing your ability to connect with others, to ask questions, to listen, to be present, to pause, to make eye contact, to be others focused. It's the people skill development that will separate the great from the most influential. And Mary Kay said that, and she asked us to spend a lifetime working on our people skills. So I want to bring you that message. I've taken classes. I've done she said there's one area to work on the rest of your life is how are you growing in your people skills. Okay, so if your brain, I don't think you can have your people skills. So we've got stop the bad foods, increase the good hormones. Exercise, that's number 4, exercise. The biggest stress release, still known by all the experts, is exercise. Now, can you at least move? I mean, walk, move, do something that will release some of the stress out of your body. And then now I'm going to do my last 3 is I'm really passionate about this one. I'm passionate about all 6 of these. Let's go back. What's the first one?
Stop the bad food.
What's the second one?
Increase good.
What's the third one?
Always monitor hormones.
Hormones. What's the 4th one?
Exercise.
Can I go ahead and give you the rest of them?
Yeah.
Okay. The 5th one is adrenal support. Adrenal gland support. Where am I? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe I've got 7. What number am I on? I didn't know.
5. Just gave us 5.
5 is adrenal support.
Yeah.
6 is sleep. And number 7 is device danger. digital device danger. And I know, as good as I know, my name is Glinda McGuire, that if Mary Kay was alive today, she would be in this room talking to you about device danger. I know it as good as I know I'm here in Williamsburg. She would be talking to you about device danger. So I'm going to bring a little bit of it. I know she would. I feel like she's that ahead of her time. Let's talk about adrenal support. You don't have to understand any bit of anatomy. Just know you've got something called an adrenal gland. And they help you in that they release a chemical, they release a hormone that helps you fight. It's the fight or flight. You know, that helps you rise up and pick up the car. That helps you win the battle, that helps you get across the finish line of that big race. That helps you rescue the child from a burning building. It helps you do supernatural things, is your cortisol. It releases it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Or you get scared and you want to flee and you run. Like I was doing one of my daily hikes and walks, and I ran into a pack of coyotes. And they had me blocked in. And they were just going back and forth as I'm going. I'm blocked in now, I've got to go here. I want you to know that I could have run a marathon and jumped over a leaping building and a pine tree and climbed it, an oak tree, because of the chemicals that was coming out of my, are you with me?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's those glands, okay, that either makes you do supernatural things. Well, your body was never supposed to stay in a constant state of fight or running.
Yeah.
Okay? And then if you're supposed to go there and rest. This is important stuff. Are y'all with me?
Yes.
I'm going to get to the point, but this is important stuff. This could save your life. And Mary Kay, if you'll get this. You're either running and you're supposed to rest. You're supposed to run and you're supposed to rest. And your adrenals give you the chemical that give you energy later. So if your adrenals are running all the time, what's going to happen to them? They're going to burn out. And you're going to go into adrenal fatigue, then you're going to go into adrenal shock, and then you're going to go into adrenal failure. And you're going to have nothing that's giving your body the juice to run. And here's the other thing about your body, and how it's especially tied to Mary Kay, is your body doesn't know good stress from bad stress. Your body just thinks it's all, whether it's eustress. So let's look at our Mary Kay. We have an adrenal high celebration when we get a booking. Woo! We get a new recruit. Yay! We get a new pearl. Woohoo! We are celebrating everybody's successes, and we want to, right? We're celebrating. That's the excitement. That's the fight. We're celebrating victories constantly. We love that part of our culture. And then we're problem solving the stressors, the negatives, and how do we fix this? So do you see how you could stay in a constant state of adrenal activity in Mary Kay? So, and now with the launch of Mary Kay being available on In Touch 24/7, you could be working. So my question becomes to this: how do you work at peak performance? Not slothful. How do you work at peak performance and allow your adrenal glands to come back and reset? It involves intentional white space. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. Intentional white space And what do I mean by white space? That means an intentional blank canvas, an intentional pause, an intentional white space to let your body reset before you go into the next activity. It does work. You can do this. But I want you to start running this business at 20, like I did, at 30, at 40, at 50, at 60, and keep going and have the energy that I have and the energy that others have. But there's a reason we have it. And there's an intentional, and we used to have it automatic, but now we have to become intentional about it. So I want to give you a couple of suggestions. Every day, maybe 30 minutes of white space, 30 minutes before you hit activities in the morning. I like to go to stillness before I go to digital. 30 minutes so I get up earlier. 30 minutes. And then throughout the day, between activities, have an intentional white space pause. At the end of every month, consider giving yourself a half a day of white space. Oh, half a day. It can still be planning. It can be thinking. It can be brain dumping. It can be creative. It could be with a blank notebook, just letting things come out of your body. But it's not people engagement. And then once a quarter, and I tied mine to the star quarter, once a quarter, leave your home for 24 hours. Give yourself 24-hour gift getaway by yourself. And it can still be planning and thought and thinking, but it's disengaging and letting your adrenals go down. I believe this so strongly, y'all. I live at the mountain in Trap Hill, and I would literally drive to Elkin and check into the Hampton Inn beside of breakfast time now for 24 hours. And my house is better. I mean, I'm in the mountains. But I knew that I had to let my adrenals reset. Now, but 24 hours away, then I started going to Pilot Knob Cabins. Then I stopped, but once a quarter. It wasn't vacation. It was time for me to take a notebook and think and plan. And Mary Kay said, though, it's another topic, but she said 30 minutes of quiet space with a notebook is more valuable to you than 8 hours of frantic activity. Can I repeat that? 30 minutes of quiet space with a notebook is more valuable to you than 8 hours of frantic activity. And I want you to have activity. I want you to have frantic activity. I want you to have chaos. That's the beauty of Mary Kay, is that we get to create chaos. We get to come into people's lives and shake them up. And we get to just turn the world upside down. But I want you to be able to do that for 5 decades. And that means intentional white space. Okay. And then sleep. When your hormones are out of balance, your sleep patterns are out of balance. And rest was designed by your creator to let your body renew. And that's really why we wash our face at night. Y'all do know that, don't you? Why not wash your face at noon? I mean, there's a reason. Why not wash your face at 10 in the morning? I mean, why do we cleanse our face with skincare products at night before we go to bed? In hopes that, while you sleep, your skin cells are regenerating and rejuvenating and repairing, and let's get them in the best possible shape so your body can do its job. So you take all the trash off. You take all the debris, the pollution. Well, it's the same way with your body. If you don't get good rest, your body can't renew itself to be ready to perform again the next day. And I think sleep deprivation is the most unacknowledged something that's really serious. So sleep, and then How are we doing on this segment? Did you have any idea that this is what was important to Mary Kay? Have any idea if this was what was so important? Let's talk about device danger. When I say device danger, what do you think I mean? And this will wrap up this segment. Someone give me a thought. What do you think I mean by this?
Depending on your devices, more than your social interaction with people.
My personal thing is when you said doing Mary Kay her way, doing Mary Kay business her way, and we're in an age now where people are trying to change her business the world's way, and the way the world is now. And so they're disengaging. I feel like right now we're in an age where people are craving communication. They're craving communication, but they're disillusioned by this social media, where they have access to people everywhere. But there's no real connection. There's no eye to eye, cheek to cheek, hand to hand. So we're missing a piece of us.
And it's easy to not do it her way, because when you look at your phone all the time and you're seeing this idea and that idea, and look what I did, and it worked. Ooh. And you really should just, that needs to go away and just focus on the process instead of focusing on what this idea and that idea, you know.
And I think it gets bigger than just like social media and TV.
Yeah.
And all devices. Like if the devil can't make you bad, he makes you busy. So he fills your mind with all this stuff that you think about and bombarded with. So you have all this, you can't go to your life space. You know, all this
That's
other
good.
stuff.
That's good.
So you have to lead yourself to a white space. You've got to lead yourself. You know, your body naturally goes to a place of chaos, don't you? Because we're sinful by nature. We have to lead ourselves to purity. We have to lead ourselves to white. It's got to be self-discipline. I'm thinking what you just said, what entertains me trains me. What entertains me trains me. And so what's entertaining me is what's training me to be that peak performer. Shannon, excellent. Bridget, excellent. And all of what you're saying is true. May I share with you on a different level, though, about digital devices? I'm just already believing that you're already at that level. You know that the great success you just see posted on Facebook may be fake news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know that let your success be your noise, not your description of it. Let your success be your noise. I think you're all beyond talking about it, writing about it. I think that you know you're a people business, you're connecting, you want to be face to face. But we also know that we need group apps. We need to let people know about our life. We know that it's important to have followers that see what we're doing, to have influence. I'm not saying not use social media. I want to talk to you about device danger on what it's doing to the brain. And I'm going to talk to you about device danger. Do you believe that you can run a successful business on heroin or cocaine? Have you been in Mary Kay long enough to have built some directors that were on cocaine or heroin? I have. I had one of my DIQs to attempt suicide the night before with an overdose before she came to her first director's meeting in the presence of Manstrap. And there was such a high discrepancy of where she was living and where she was pretending to live that she couldn't face up to the authenticity of walking into the room. I stayed committed to her future and to her path as long as she would stay committed. She went into a comprehensive where you stay. Rehab, where you don't check out, you go in for a while. One of the most charismatic, loving, bright, articulate, at the time, one of the best verbal communicators I have met. So you can have a lot of great talent and skills, but still be off in one area. We've got a lot of great people that can communicate, that can work this business, but they don't quite embrace the culture of Mary Kay. You can just be off in one area. And I stay committed to her future. I said, I'll stay committed and invest in building you and building your business as long as you stay committed to clean and drug-free. So we're going to partner. When you stay into treatment, I stay committed with you. You abandon treatment, I pull back. The sad news is the addiction was too great. She chose drugs over a better life. It does happen. But you can't build a business. If we're having to have clear minds because of hormones being imbalanced, if I say you have paranoia or you're skewed because your hormones are off, what do you think happens if you're on drugs? I want to share with you what Justin Rosenstein says. Justin Rosenstein is the developer of the like button, the red like button on Facebook. He worked with Google. He worked with Facebook. Like, L-I-K-E, the like button, the like button. All these creators, excuse me, when you go to Facebook and you see something on my page and you go, oh, I like that, pop, the like button. He worked for Google. He was a designer for Google. He was a designer for, and I don't have the right language, but Facebook. He created these things in his 20s, and it might be, it's Justin Rosenstein or Rosenstein, but he's one of the developers. He's 34 now. He developed this in his 20s. Quote, it is very common for humans to develop things with the best of intentions and for them to have unintended negative consequences. End of quote. It is very common for humans to develop things with the best of intentions and for them to have unintended negative consequences. These are not people like Glinda or Kristen or Angie talking about their opinion. The developers of these social media devices, now in their 30s, have gone into neuroscience, neurosurgery, working to develop apps to protect their own brains. And go as far as saying that the brain has become equivalent to one on coke or heroin. It's addictive. We become addicted to it. And now the creators are trying to do things to protect their own brains. And I'm talking about it today because I think Mary Kay would. And we are the last generation that can remember life before digital devices. We're the last generation. I'm not saying not use it. I'm just saying if Justin Rosenstein is working on trying to figure out, he's even rewarding himself through an app for not hitting a like button. He's rewarding himself for changing the behavior of what it's done to his own personal brain. I think we need to listen to these creators. What do you think? If they're going to extend to protect their own family. So here's some things I do. I'm working on it. These are some things I do
for understanding the digital danger from these creators. First thing I do is sometimes I put my phone in lockup. I messaged my directors last week, and it's very common for them to hear me say, my phone is going into lockup in the morning at 9 a.m. That's so they don't expect an immediate reply. And I can back away from the phone for 8 to 10 hours. So lockup. Number 2, my phone goes in a room away from my bed. I don't have the phone in the bedroom. I take it away. I set an alarm on the phone, but it goes off in another room. 1 hour before bed, 1 hour before bed, unless, there's travel, you've got to check things. But on a routine, 1 hour before bed, I don't look at my phone. 1 hour before bed, I don't look at anything digital. Quiet time, 15 minutes reading before technology. 15 minutes of reading before technology. All notifications off so that I have to intentionally go look. When I find myself aimlessly scrolling, as I did as recently as last week, and I'm working on it. When I find myself aimlessly scrolling, I take a fast. I take a fast. We must have the focus to be present with people. And we must be others focused. I just had my first DIQ that I had to have a crucial conversation with, that her brain needed help in focusing with others. And I'm dealing with my first encounters of people. It could be ADD, ADHD, it could be just digital danger, but she absolutely cannot stay present with a person and misses the details. And I'm glad to say that she went to the doctor on Monday, and she actually said, I've known this about me, I've known these things were going inside of me, but only until business leaders pointed out that they noticed that I was missing life with my children, I was missing life with my husband, and I was missing opportunities to build my business because I couldn't focus. I thought I'd better take this seriously. Guys, I hope that you'll take some part of what I've said in this segment extremely seriously. Do some of your own research. I'm not saying, I'll have dessert. I'll put healthier things in. Sleep, be mindful of these things. But we are the last generation that knew life before these devices. And if your brain is so addicted, if it's changed, how can you lead people and be present with people if we don't take a detox from some of that occasionally, or at least figure out how to control it? And it all comes down to this. Doesn't matter how good you are somewhere else in Mary Kay, if you are lacking in self-discipline. Discipline is where it all begins. Lead yourself, you can lead others. But if we don't lead ourselves well in some of these areas, how are we ever going to lead others? So in wrap up, what does leading yourself better mean to you? What area would you go to first?
All of them. You need all of them. You need all of them.
But if we look at all of them at one time, we might shut down. I remember sitting in a chair thinking, what one thing can I do that could impact every area of my Mary Kay? And the thought that came to me was exercise. Now, if I could go exercise, it would release my stress, it'd give me creativity, and that's the word that came. I think in your self-leadership was one area that you could work on next to lead yourself better that would impact all of your Mary Kay? 2 hours with Mary Kay Ash in her office. All we talked about was how much she cared deeply about women. And I'm going to talk at the end about worthiness and what Mary Kay thought about your worthiness. But first, I wanted you to know how deeply she cared about your anatomy. Now, she talked about your worthiness, and if a woman could just get how special she really was, it would be a successful day. But she cared about your anatomy too. So a healthy leader will build a healthy organization. And how can we stay healthy for the long haul? And how can we be the example and the mentor to show another generation the way to go? Or are we just going to be sucked in? No, you're uncommon. We are uncommon women. We are uncommon women, and we must live an uncommon, set-apart life that starts with intentionality based on you. Okay, all right. Kristen, you want to give them a break?
Yeah, let's do a
Think
break.
they've had
That's
all they can
perfect.
take of me
All
right
right,
now?
let's clap for Glinda. Yay! Love it. Okay, so this all you. Well, I can tell Glinda that you touch people because a lot of tears. You know, it may be something that, you know, at least for me, you know, I would go, you know, are we gonna cry this morning in the Mary Kay man? And yeah, we are. I mean, because it touches on, I think, a core. And you probably have lots of thoughts of self-awareness. Like maybe anybody have like a self-awareness moment where you kind of checked yourself while she was talking? Multiple check myself, you know? And then we realized, you know, what about our kids? Anybody have a thought about your children and their behaviors and how we don't maybe necessarily go to, okay, I need to teach this. I need to teach this to a child. You know, we don't necessarily do that. So I think it's something that is uncommonly taught. This is not common. This is not commonly taught. So I'm like really excited that Glinda has taken it on to just be like really an ambassador for what Mary Kay, you know, for that purpose of teaching health and well-being. She cared about people. So I'm just like super excited that Glinda is being Glinda today. So, yeah, thank you. Okay, so just like 11 o'clock. So take a break and come back at right 11. Yeah, that's like 5 or 6 to 8 minutes. I don't know. Yeah. Are they here? Did everybody get to see the diamonds? Anybody else want the diamonds to try them on or anything?
Did they make it all the way around?
I think
We're
so.
going that way.
I have them back.
You have them
Well,
back.
here.
Okay, well, here's your, let me count them.
Yes. Keep the diamonds.
Well, Last year, I was around here over the way.
We are
I haven't even had anybody to get that far. And then, now look at her. And I've got another day after we just started.
Commerce 3, number 1.
Yeah, that's what I said, that's my
Yeah,
baby.
I know.
I created her.
No, I'm one. There was no one before me. We did not.
No, we don't, no.
I'm number 1.
Oh, so
Right,
Gloria. You're only from 3 to her 1.
Mom snuggled babies. And I know she had it in her, I had to get her good math, and she had to get tired of not making money. But yes, the most thing I could say I ever done for her, because she's done it all. She's gonna be.
Did you get to try the diamond?
Was, I could show her how to do the work, the grunt work. And then
When
she
the new
will work.
director rings in there, did you notice it? I mean, these are your on the
I told her
move,
one time, but I've never had.
fabulous 50s. Is this the dean's list?
Well, no, Amy really now, because she told me that nobody ever else here. She told me nobody ever worked as hard as her. I was like,
Oh,
seriously? I worked as hard, not harder.
the director
She
ring?
does. Now look at her.
Just to make you mad. You made it in trouble.
This one did.
They're gonna be so pretty.
Apparently, I'm an
You
easy
get one for
read.
each thing, you know? One for each.
I got mine in the mail. Good.
Which one's hers? The other one, yeah. On the move, 3 qualified, 3 personal qualified, you get $10,000. 3 months. Yeah.
It comes to that pink envelope. I was like, what? I didn't know what those big pink envelopes. I'm like, oh, I know where that's from. That was the first one I think I had gotten. Well, I picked mine up in this. I can't wear them.
The earrings connected.
Hers, maybe?
Yeah.
That's so exciting. Oh, it's beautiful. It looks good. It looks good.
Yeah. I don't know. Have it in my video.
A little eye cream on. Huh? Is she here? She's coming. And how you say her name again? Ariel. So not like Ariel, like not the mermaid. Ariel.
I'm
You said she's got 3 or 5.
Oh, good. I went to I said I need to keep talking.
She
she has 2 active. I mean, technically, she's still a consultant. She's still a senior consultant. You have to have 3 active to do it. Then she can get her an active. Yeah. I mean, she's basically, like, she'll be a DIQ. She's going to be a DIQ by the end of the month. So I know that's kind of weird. Like, she's just in a weird monthly term. Well, and then what is she? I mean, she's so new though. She might want to go to the new consultant just because she's so new. You know, I think she should. She's like 30 days old. Right? Let's just tell her if we know she's a DIQ, but go just to see if she's not missing anything. Even if she's just marked off a list.
Good, she looks really different, doesn't she? What's different about her? Her face looks different. Her face looks longer. She's changing.
That's not the best thing ever.
I love everything.
Well, they're my favorite.
Anyway,
I'm so sad that.
What? The new lipstick? I'm wearing, what am I wearing? No, is it still on? There or something.
Oh, that's the, I did not put it on.
Oh no, I stole her. She's on terrible. Look how cute my baby is. She's the cutest. I think she's changing. I think her face
Okay, I
is
think
changing.
it's 11. I'm gonna give Glinda all of her time. Is it still recording? Yeah, it's still recording, Danny. That's okay. I mean, it's all right. We can edit it. Randy can edit it. Okay, guys, come back. Come back to me now. Come back to me now.
I gotta see this picture.
We're gonna have a salad at 12. 12ish, I think about 12. We're gonna have a salad and soup. Tomato basil soup and a big salad. So I'm trying to feed y'all good. Like that's important to us, right? I think it's important. Yeah, I did pretty good. Right? I did pretty good with the healthy stuff.
Talking about eating healthy, I was never and told us to go back.
Okay, everybody. So let's everybody look up and look at Pretty Glinda because she's gonna start talking again.
Oh, what a privilege and an honor to be able to share some of this material. How are we feeling? Really good. Thank you for your comments. I know it starts with us. It starts with our self-leadership. It starts with our health and to just grow in that area. Will you be committed to growing in that area all the rest of your days? Just not a season. And some of you came up and just shared very tearful comments that, you know, you really were surrounded by family members who did not take care of their health and who did not do these right things. And you do know that's the masses of our society, don't you? And that you are uncommon, and that you are set apart, and that you have to be the generational break for your children. And that if you're around people that don't, you know, just don't get pulled into that, you become the one that sets the pace and sets the standard for different living. Well, let's talk about numbers. Let's talk about what Mary Kay would say if she were your coach today. If Mary Kay were your coach, and I like to talk about this segment is how to think right about the business. How to think right about the business. And if Mary Kay were your coach and understanding the numbers. I often heard Mary Kay's success in Mary Kay reduced down to these comments. And I think that's pretty special. Reduced down to these comments that how many of you would like to know that you are going to succeed? That you have got it. That you are going to succeed. That this is skills based. Mary Kay got it right. Would you agree that she got it right? And that it's skills based, and if Mary Kay were here and you could just have this piece of knowing if I embrace the culture, and I may go into the culture, I have the directors 1 more hour after today, breakout classes tomorrow. I'd like to talk about eventually, what is the culture? I mean, we might think we know the culture, but do we? What's the culture? What's the process? And how do you enjoy the journey? That's something that Kristen said, and I have this necklace, and it's something that I give. It's the McGuire Entrepreneur Necklace. That's what I'm calling it, the McGuire Entrepreneur Necklace. And it goes to those women that set themselves up to be an entrepreneur. They're set apart in the world of Mary Kay. And to be an entrepreneur, you've got to be set up right. And you've got to understand the culture. You've got to understand. So I want to ask you, as you grow your team, 2 questions. When people say yes to you, do they know what they're saying yes to? When people say yes to you, do they know what they're saying yes to? And and then the next part is going to be, if every person you add to your team does not want a 3600 or higher order, you have a problem. If every person that joins your team does not want a 3600 or 4800, you have a problem. Now, I didn't say that they got it. Maybe they couldn't, but they need to want it. If they're not wanting it, we have a culture problem. So I'm going to go deeper on the culture, because inventory is a culture piece. But people don't really understand that unless you heard 16 years of Mary Kay's voice talk about her culture. So I want to talk about that. But if we understand the culture and we embrace the culture, it can be reduced down to this. Success in Mary Kay can be reduced down to this. If I think right, so I want you to write this down, success, because you want to succeed. Success in Mary Kay can be reduced down to this. If I think right about the business, and I understand the numbers. If I think right about the business and I understand the numbers. If I think right about the business and I understand the numbers. We've got to think right in every business circumstance we're in. So how do we know if we're thinking right? You must. The beautiful part of Mary Kay is that you get to be a coach and you get to have a coach. You get to be a coach to others and you get to have a coach. Would you find it interesting or valuable to know that I have one woman that I go to, and I say, this is my current business situation, and I say, am I thinking accurately about it? And she brings something to check. Am I thinking accurately? And am I thinking right about this? Or am I off? And it's one person that I trust. So do you realize just getting off track on your thinking a little bit takes you totally down a wrong path? Can I get a yes? Yes. So how have you helped? How has Kristen helped you think right about different parts of the business? Give some examples. How do you help a consultant think right about booking? How do you help a person think right about skincare? How do you help someone think right about scheduling an interview or career chat instead of holding it and talking all the time? Y'all looking at me like you don't know what I'm talking about. How do you think? Has anyone ever impacted your thinking in this Mary Kay journey? Yes. So it's asking yourself, am I thinking accurately about this right now? And who would I go to help me get clear thinking? Because I believe if you think right and you understand the numbers, so that will be a check question. Am I thinking right about this? Who would be a good source of information to help me on that? I used to struggle with talking numbers, and I bet Bridget might too, because she lives in her imagination, and she lives in belief, and she lives in heart. Bridget, do you want to know how I got to get to numbers? I finally got to numbers. I used to struggle with talking numbers. How many of you, because I thought, oh, numbers are so cold. And I actually wrote my notes down. I thought it was so impersonal and cold and not about people.
numbers. They start talking numbers, and I go, blank. Shut down. I'm in the people business. I had to create a new truth about this concept. Numbers mean people. Numbers mean people. More people means more connections. More connections means more influence. More influence means enriching more lives.
Yes.
Yeah, I had to type it up. I mean, I even typed my notes and signed my name because I used to struggle. It says, let's talk numbers. I used to struggle with talking numbers. I thought it was so impersonal and cold and not about people. I had to create a new truth about this concept. Numbers mean people. More people means more connections. More connections means more influence. And more influence means enriching more lives. And I have a hashtag that says, hashtag numbers matter because people count. Numbers matter because people count.
I think this is just so smart because we all have something. We all have something that we just don't like.
Yep.
And we have to just look at it differently. We have to just adjust and reset and think about it differently. Because we can all, I mean, we're not just picking on just Shanna and Bridget, you know, but regardless if it was this conversation or something else, we could all reset something.
When I think of faces, I think the opposite. When I think 30 faces, I'm like, oh, I get to see 30 faces. Like, I get to see more people. Like, to me, that is helping people. So, I don't know.
We all have
We're
something.
not always there yet.
Yeah.
We're not all there
No,
yet.
we're all not there. And I just remember when it was my something, Kristen. I had the number. I thought, oh, that's so cold, and it's more than some people and the love and the heart and the imagination. And I thought, but I got to understand numbers. Mary, I've got to understand the numbers. Hey, numbers are people. Numbers are people. So whatever it is, you got to tweak something, guys. You've got to figure out what your thing is to tweak. Mine happen to be numbers. Numbers matter, and our heart tells us to make it. I want you to use what I call I helped the company come up with it. I wrote with the company. I went to Dallas, wrote a program on leadership with them years ago, and I hope they selected me more than because my name was Glinda, and Glinda the Good Witch or the Wizard of Oz, but it really ended up being the head, heart, and courage model of leadership. And we have to use all three. So I'd like to share the head, heart, and courage model of leadership. Our heart tells us to make a connection, build a relationship, cast a vision. Our head tells us that we must have people to connect with and that averages are important. And then would you use the courage to work with numbers? The heart tells us we got to make the connection. The head tells us we got to have people to connect with. And would you have the courage to work with numbers? How many new people do you want to add this month? How many interviews will that take? How many selling appointments need to be held to reach the goal? And then I have a banner with me, but it's somewhere in the car. So I don't know that it'll get set up or not, but it's a banner that says, the next one I'm going to make is, with God in bookings, all things are possible. But the banner that I've got with me today simply says, unit size matters. Unit size matters. And Mary Kay, again, would ask us to have a different unit size and specific dates. And she was going to ask us for it. Like, what number do you want your unit size to be by December 31st? She tied it to the quarters. What number do you want your unit size to be by the last day of March? What number do you want your unit size to be by the last day of June? And I know Kristen will talk about building a unit and $1 million unit and $1 million meeting, but your unit size and the number of stars are the two most important factors that will impact the direction. Your unit size, and then to have a healthy unit, And let's talk about that. Healthy balance, healthy unit. There's got to be 3 concepts. Mary Kay called it attain, train, and retain. Attain, train, and retain. And how easy for us to get off on one element. And Mary Kay also talked about the bathtub. And I bet Laura remembers this. She'd talk about the bathtub example. And she would say your unit is like a big bathtub of water, or it could be our area. Your organization is like a bathtub of water. And she said you're sitting in the bathtub, and some of your bathtubs are a little bit more fuller than others. Some of you just getting started with your water. Some of you had it about 3/4 full, some of it's half full, but your unit's your bathtub. And she said, for the healthiest, now I've heard Mary Kay say this, she'd stand at the podium and her little hand would do this. And she would say, this is the healthiest unit. Mary Kay taught more about health, healthy unit, healthy business. And she would say for the healthiest unit, you need to pull the plug in the bathtub. And she said, you've got to let some of the water always be going out of the bathtub. And she said, and some of those water molecules, Mary Kay never said the word molecule, but some of those water droplets would come back up and come back in your faucet again, right? But she said, you've got to lead them with an open hand. And she'd say, because if you stop up the tub, the water's going to get old, stale. Think about leaving bath water in the tub for a week. Think about leaving bath water for a month. Think about leaving bath water for a year. What's going to happen? It's going to get funky, it's going to get green, it's going to get putrid, it's going to get negative, it's going to get stinky, it's going to get smelly, it's going to get bad energy. So you pull the plug, and she said the molecules will leave, some molecules will stay in the tub all along, and she said, here's what's the problem. You got to turn the water on. And she said, the water's got to stay on. And she would use a little commercial, like a little comic strip. She said, some of you have your water turned on and there's just one drop coming out going. She said, so you got your tub pulled, got some water in there, but you got the faucet turned on a trickle. And she said, that's not healthy. Healthy is turn the water on, full speed, leave some water in there, and let some go. So Mary Kay's definition of healthy. And I really, it was 10 new water drops a month. And anything below that, she said your unit is going to a state, no matter what your unit size is. And that concerns me because right now we're recruiting down. And so, and I think I could go off on some opinions on why I think that is, but it doesn't matter why I think it is. The problem is we've got to fix it. We've got to fix it. Because what happens, this is what we know. Well, we don't even know. Some of you are trying to change the circumstances in the direction of your unit and where your business is going, but you're not putting enough new into the pocket you're working to change the atmosphere. The atmosphere of what's going on in that pocket or in that woman's business in that town, you're not putting enough water in there to change the temperature of the area. And research tells us with people, you got to add 4 new to an audience at the same time to change the temperature. Can't change it. We talk about one woman can and the power of one, and one woman can make a difference. But the dynamics is if you don't add 4 new people in an area, in a city at the same time, you can't shift the energy of that city until you add 4. Because unless you stay there and bring your own energy constantly. If you want to make a turn,
So when I get to thinking about this sometimes, I literally go get in the bathtub and I sit in the tub and I run the water and I turn the water off and I let it get cold. And I sit there and I go, do y'all ever take baths and keep turning the hot water on? I literally do it again, turn some more water on, get it hot, and I go, okay, that's what I gotta do. Gotta go get more DIQs, gotta get more unit mirrors, gotta get out, and I go get dressed and I get back on the job again. It's not trying to fix the water in the tub. It's adding new water. And that new water heats the rest up. But there are some magical numbers. So it becomes, how can I figure this out? How can I add 10 a month? 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 And the numbers are, Mary Kay's thoughts on this. She wrote me a letter. I was at DIQ week. I don't want to take, you're welcome to come up and look at these pictures, but I thought I would show you this one of Richard Rogers. When Richard was saying to me this concept about the bathtub, Mary Kay's son and Mary Kay were standing there, and she said to me, and I was sitting, it's kind of like where Shannon was, I was sitting at the front of the room, Mary Kay was standing where I'm at, I was sitting here on like the front row, and she said, January, I want you to go home now. I'm a new director. I've just recruited everybody I ever thought I knew in the whole planet. Universe. I have 30. And she tells me to go home. And in that next month, this was her words to me. I want you to go add 30 new this month. Well, I almost feel sick even feeling it again. Going back to that moment makes me kind of feel sick because I didn't know whether I was going to throw up or cry. But I felt like it was going to be one of those two. Because I thought, there's no way that I can go add 30 people in the next 30 days. And she's just looked at me, and that's what's important to her. And I thought, but this is what I got from this. I didn't get 30 the next month. But what do you think I got from that? I got from her that I was supposed to grow and not micromanage what I had. And she helped me think right about my business. And I will say I got from her that I was supposed to grow. And that no matter what my unit size was, it could be 200. But if there wasn't growth every month, it was not as healthy as it could be. I got a healthy business model. And I'm very pleased to say to you that I went home that year and that month, after she told me to recruit 30, I fell short. I failed, I missed my first goal. But the next 12 months, I averaged 13 a month. So maybe that would be something. 13 a month, the next 12 months. Well, what's 12 times 13? Well, it's at least over 120.
Yeah.
Do what? 126 plus 30. It's 100. The thing is 100 new people in a year. What could that do? What could that one critical niche do for you? She also taught us, and I believe these numbers are accurate, 125 unit members will do $500,000, 150 will do trip, 175 will do prestige, and 205 will do million. And all of these numbers need to be in place by Christmas for a sure guarantee. Now, and again, this is contingent on apprentice that I just said earlier. We worked to get our unit sizes to change. We worked to get to 75. We'll work to get to 100. Let me just go ahead and say 100. Can I digress just a moment?
Yes.
Would you teach your people that if they're going to stay a consultant, that their objective is to get to 100 skincare customers? I'm just going to get those 3 positions in Mary Kay, and this is the healthiest just truth. To be 100 skincare customers. Stay a consultant, just build 100 skincare customers.
100 repair, 100 miracle set, 100 skincare sets. You build to 100 customers. That will build you a sustainable business. That's your goal if you want to stay a consultant forever. That will be a healthy business model. Would you agree? 100 skincare customers, not 100 lip gloss customers, not $100 customers, but 100 skincare customers. If you're going to be a director and you're not going to go national, now I'm looking for how many nationals? 10. But if you're going to stay a director and you're not one of those 10 nationals, your goal is to get to a healthy place. It's 100 unit members.
And I think, Glinda, tell me if I'm right on this, that Mary Kay wanted us to have 100 because it kind of went back to the health conversation, right?
It did.
Went back to the health because you have a third working and a third's 30. That's the unit size. So it goes back to 100. But she also says, so I knew that. I knew I've got to get to 100. Now, if you're going to become a national, and you're a young national, there's a little bit more variance here. But I also know as a national sales director for the healthiest model, a national needs 100 directors. So it's a common thing. 100 customers, skincare customers if you're a consultant, 100 unit members if you're a consultant, and 100 directors if you're a national. I have 38 paying lines. Let's see. I have a gap. I have a gap between now and 100. Now, if you debut as a national when you're 60, you're not going to get to 100. But if you debut as a national at 40, if you debut as a national at 30, you need to know that, yes, you want to give your job away, but you want 100 directors. It's like a consultant gets 100 customers, a director gets 100 unit members, and in those 100 unit members, she's looking for the leaders. And then a national is 100 directors, and she's looking at the nationals, and the offsprings can count as two, but the healthy number is 100. So it's never a place to arrive and park. It's a place to arrive and have a new level of influence and impact. So would you teach that? If you're going to stay a consultant, if you're going to stay a consultant, get 100 customers. If you're going to stay a director, get 100 unit members. And if you're going to stay a national, get 100 directors.
Okay, so for everybody, look right here with me. When she was talking about how she averaged 13, and she said, Mary Kay said, you need to go get 30. You go home and you get 30. To Mary Kay, that wasn't hard. So if you're sitting here thinking anything that she's saying is hard, you need to revisit that mentality. You need to recreate a truth about what you think it means to have an average of 10 a month, or 13 a month, or 20 a month, or to have 100 by Christmas. So let's dig more into why do I think this is hard, and how can I retrain my brain to think this is easy? If you thought when she said, Angie and I need to have 100, and herself, 100 directors, if you thought that was hard, then I want to go back and say, wow. And how can we retrain your brain to think that's easy? Maybe you see the Applause magazine and you think, well, the number one has 25 in a month, so I'm probably doing pretty good with 7. Do you see what I'm saying? You need to retrain your brain in a sense. Why am I thinking the way I do about these numbers? Because somebody has to set a standard of why this is normal. Like, I am really passionate about recreating a normalcy in Mary Kay, because if we're going to take it to another 50 years, we have to recreate what is normal. We have to create growth. So why can't we be the game changers in the bigger picture of Mary Kay US? Like, somebody's going to have to. Okay, I have to say that. Yes.
Is it also true, and I know where I'm going with this, but I think it is also true to say that when you're a director and you have 100 unit members, is it about average that you should have 2 directors? About 100 unit members, there's probably 2 directors, every 50 directors.
At least, that's company standards. So that's company facts, but I think we're better, honestly.
If the 100 rule is that is true, average, if you're a national and you had 50 directors, then you should have a national. I'm just thinking, like, my girl was like, when we finished a national area, like, we need to have a national. So we're like halfway there, but that's what I'm thinking, like, because you all spring Andy, how many directors did you have with Andy?
Yeah. Like,
So that would be, I'm just thinking numbers. I'm trying to.
She's thinking
And I'm gonna come in here and shake this all up. I mean, shake it all up. No, I'm not gonna shake what Kristen just set up, because that's definitely, how many of you had that throw up moment like I did when I said you need 100 unit members, or when you debut as a national, now you need to have 100 directors? Well, if it's a journey and you're going to continue going forward and not arriving at a destination, why would that concern us? So maybe you're targeting for a destination than a mission. I mean, maybe, but then this is the part. We do have to understand the numbers, but heart, and I think I'm going to say always heart and the supernatural, divine, holy power of the Holy Spirit trumps the numbers, because he can bring the harvest. And he is the Lord of the harvest, and he can bring it. So you've got to have heart, and you got to work with the numbers, you got to work the averages. But you've also realized we're a business with heart and with supernatural divine power. So when you do that element, Bridget, this is where I'm going to shake things up. Understand numbers a little bit, but work really hard. You can never make divine things make sense on paper. So I need to shake that up.
oh, it's true. And y'all remember me telling a story, anybody, when I called Glinda frustrated about the numbers, and she said, wait, she was so sweet, but she said, wait a minute. She said, Kristen, you are going to lose if you keep trying to calculate this, if you keep trying to write this out and try to make this make sense, because I don't ever make sense. Yeah. So that was my first few years. If it didn't make sense, I didn't know what was going on. I needed value, and so it was like, and so she was just like, you've got to just understand that it's not, you're going to fail if you sit here and try to make this make sense on paper. You've got to learn to live in that other realm, basically,
Well, you can't, when I say you gotta make it make sense, I mean, you can't expect to earn a Cadillac on 28 unit members. That just doesn't make sense, right? Or 23 unit members. Or you can't go on a trip with 13 unit members. You gotta, there's some of it you can make sense. You've got to understand the numbers that make sense, but you cannot make this business make sense on paper when you enter another realm. You can't. I mean, how did it make sense that I had a $3,000 month and a $21,000 month? Did I really work that different? No, I couldn't have learned that much more in 30 days. So you can't make it make sense on paper. So I think I want to talk about, well, the numbers of the process. You can create a movement, though. One of the things I'm going to do at my fall advance is that I'm going to ask the group to go out. My ending challenge is that we all go recruit one person in the next week. We're going to do community booking. We're literally going to get on the phone and call our one person, that if we had to go forward in Mary Kay with just one more person, who would that person be? And we're going to call them, and we're going to ask them, we're going to say, we're here in a group with our favorite friends, our Mary Kay sisters, and we're all thinking about who that one person would be that we'd like to have on our team. And we're calling to invite you to have coffee or lunch with us, so I can go about talk with you about the parts of Mary Kay that other people don't really understand, and that what makes our national area set apart. And you're my one person. I have these times available, blah, day, time, book, reschedule. You can book the appointment. But this is what we're going to do. We're going to create a movement that if we can each one reach one, so you can hit some numbers pretty fast. If each one reach one, you have 70.
And I'm going to be very clear. I'm going to say, I want to know what, the numbers matter. The numbers are reliable if people know what they're saying yes to. Numbers aren't reliable if people don't know what they're saying yes to. Can I repeat that? Numbers are reliable if people know what they're saying yes to. But if they don't know what they're saying yes to, they don't know what they're going to do next. So this each one, we're going to go for 70. Okay. We're actually going to go for 100, but I'm going to say 70 for a moment. If just 60, I'm going to drop it to 60. If we get 60 people to say yes to embracing the process, and I'm going to ask those 60 people that say yes, would they do the power of 10, the power of 10 P10, the power of 10 table events one time? Would you just do it one time? Would you do P10, the power of 10 times at the table with friends and family, 10 times at the table, and see what that could do for your business? Just do it one time. So I'm starting with a group of women. They'll just get one recruit. And if 60 of them will do P10, 10 parties one time. Do you know that is the activity for an inner circle month? Yeah.
Okay. Are you talking about souls that are going out to recruit the one, or are you talking about the one that they recruit all?
The one that they recruit. Each person recruits are saying yes to holding table events. They know what they're saying yes to, Julianne. They know what they're saying yes to. Maybe they're saying yes to financial freedom and fun and foundational growth or frivolous, but what's their vehicle to get that? It's the table event. It's Mary Kay's process. So if they're saying yes to the table event, I'm just trying to say is you can start with a small group and build to an inner circle month. The 600 parties in a month is inner circle. 600 times at the table in a month is inner circle activity. Did y'all realize that? Did you realize that 60 times a month, 60 table events, 60 parties, Mary Kay's way, is $1 million a year. 40 is a trip, 25 is a Cadillac. So when I talk about numbers, that's what I'm needing. And then maybe we'll get to what could your next year look like? What would your first year DIQs look like if Mary Kay were your coach? And I've tried to really reflect on what she said there and put some things together. But let's go into closing now for just a moment. Yes. They enter them on our website if they want to. We do we enter the bookings by the 5th, and we enter when they hold them on the website. I have someone else manage it. I think I want to talk about Mary Kay's. Can I talk about, are you with me enough to talk about, I feel like I've lost you for just a moment.
Can I ask you to say that what you said about the creating a movement and all our certain one person, how you said that was just so amazing. I want to talk to you about some of the ins and outs of Mary Kay. I didn't catch all that, and I think that it was just amazing how you said that.
I think our script and what we say to people, if you could walk away from just a couple of points, and we'll go deeper in that next hour, is what are people saying yes to when they say yes with you? What are they saying yes to? I want my new recruits to know what they're saying yes to, and I want them to want a 3,600 or 4,800. I want them, because if they're not, then I must be watering something down. I must be going away from purity of Mary Kay, the Mary Kay way. So my B would be, you can recruit. There's 2 ways you can recruit. I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there. You can recruit someone and teach them the process. You can recruit someone and teach them the process, or you can work the process and recruit them from the process. So you either recruit someone and teach them the process, or you recruit them from the process. But they still have to get the process, right? I mean, if we're going to do it Mary Kay's way. So it becomes, how can I figure this out? How can I figure this out?
because I'm wanting and very much seriously about looking for nationals, I brought two most important pieces of paper, and one was when I went from consultant to director, and then I wanted to bring you the paper that when I went from director to national. And I would like to talk about what my dynamics look like then, and how I feel like my business success, well, paralleled my personal development. And at this time, I would like to talk to you about the woman, Mary Kay Ash. And I think I just have 20 minutes to do this. But Mary Kay was a responsive leader. And have you ever heard her referred to as that before? She's a responsive